Hello, Cambridge School of Bucharest. I'm Melania Damian. I'm a proud mom of two girls, 12 and 10 years old. And all the values and the principles we are discussing today are enhanced in me because when I became a mom. I'm passionate about crafting business models and developing innovation projects. But in the past years, I discovered a pleasure in being at the service of my friends, my family, my colleagues, and actually helping them take risks, fear less failure, because no success is guaranteed. I think what is very important is what do we make of our decisions? You know, there is no single path to success. Since I was little, I saw examples in my family, and I wanted to travel. You know, I wanted a job where I could travel the world. I was living in communist times, and this was really a crazy aspiration. But later on, apart from being an engineer or a flight attendant, more opportunities arise. So I decided to have a career in diplomacy. I even had my graduation thesis around diplomatic missions. But you know, I learned foreign languages. I was, you know, studying heavily global economy. But right after graduating the university, my coordinating professor told me that actually I'm not fit. I won't be a good diplomatic. I won't be a good commercial attaché, because he said I'm too crazy and too brutally honest to be good for this career. So, even if I didn't know this phrase at that time, this was actually my first kick in the butt, in the adult butt. And I knew that this is a lesson for adaptability, that I needed to be flexible and apply what I have acquired so far to a different career. So this actually gave me courage. I realized that the one way to progress is to fail, okay? And I will talk a lot about failure. One interesting concept which I'm studying for a year, and it resonates very much with the theme, are adaptogens. Adaptogens are plants which are supposed to relieve stress of various factors, and they are in the Chinese and Ayurvedic healing traditions for centuries. But there is a renaissance today, and also the Western healing principles are adopting it. But what intrigued me in these adaptogens are actually that these plants are growing in very severe natural conditions. And that's why they imprint in their genetics this resistance to severe conditions. What parallel I'm making is actually the same as adaptogens. We also humans have to adapt, learn to face challenges, learn how to manage stress, and we need to adapt to very difficult situations sometimes. Throughout my life, a bit of masochistic probably, I was always attracted by very difficult projects. Some say, like, you know, you are set for disaster, you always have this, you know, suicidal projects on your agenda, you will destroy your career. But I think I was driven by, you know, curiosity, the desire to prove, you know, it can be done. And, you know, I was somehow envisaging how great I will feel that I will do the very difficult. I have two, let's say, memorable projects where I can, you know, say I learned a lot about myself and a lot about the principles that are healthy to apply in challenging situations. One was an innovation project. I was in a corporate world at that time, and this was a project for a year. Nobody wanted it. It had no mama, as we used to call it, and nobody wanted to take it because it was a project which was supposed to fail. But I was a bit bored in my role, and I said, I will take it, I will play with that. And you know, in 9 months, it became a 100 million project. Later on, people regretted for not taking it. But just because it had a low profile, nobody cared, I was pretty free to do what I believed is the right thing. But you know what, analyzing backwards with a more mature mind, I think that the success reasons were really, as I mentioned, the drive, my motivation to make it work. The second was a rule of simplicity. It was a very complex project, so I knew that if I don't keep it simple, it will not come true. And third, the most important, naivety. I could not envisage in success. I did not know what it is. So this didn't erode my enthusiasm. I was keep on, going and working on this project, and at the end, results came. So I was very focused on doing the right thing. So sometimes you just need a little bit of, love, naivety, and things can come true for you. The second project was entering Japan, a very sophisticated market. For 5 years, the company was trying to penetrate this market. And again, it was failure after failure. And I said, I want to take it. I had the chance to have a trip in Japan before that, and I just was mesmerized by what I found there. And I said, I want to do this. I want to travel to Japan very often, so I will take this project. I was inheriting, past failures, misconceptions, even poor assessment of the situation, but I wiped everything on, and I, started again from tabula rasa. But you know what made me work and almost succeed was, as I said, my love and fascination for the culture. I was so motivated to put the extra effort in this project because I was learning so much about such a different culture. So curiosity and this appetite for absorption of new things kept me going and pushing and overcoming challenges. At the end, the project didn't come through as I wanted. And this is also something to remember, because sometimes things don't come out as we want, but they are good for us. But all the accumulated learning of everybody who worked on this project paid off, and the effort was recognized. I mentioned that I have this love still for Japan culture, even business culture. So there are so many concepts I'm studying, I don't have enough time to talk about. Another one which I want to briefly present, it's Kaizen. You probably heard about it. It comes from Kai, which means change, and Zen, which means for the better. Not the best, but for the better. So what I like about this, continuous improvement concept, it actually reveals how we are as human beings and how we are as professionals. Because we are always on a path of slow but steady, continuous improvement. So failure, it's part of this. I had an assignment to Moscow. It was a long time ago. It was never wanted. It was, what have I done? You took me there. I had a lot of prejudice. I had a lot of desire to be somewhere else in another country, which I put as a priority, but I had to go to Russia. Well, it proved one of my best professional experiences. I loved my time there. And I had nothing. I didn't know a word. I didn't know how to read the Cyrillics. I will not talk about the first 10 days, but what I can say that the first 100 days were successful. But what I was not ready was day 150, when I decided to go snowboarding, actually to learn to snowboard in Russia. So here I was. I found an instructor, a 21 years old Dima, who wanted to learn English snowboarding. I said, fine. I said, okay, I will come and pick you up by car. No, we meet at the railway station. So we met at 8. We took the worst train possible. Okay, I don't know how even to call it in English or in Romanian. And he forbid me for 2 hours to hold to anything. And he had this idea that it helps your balance. You will just learn snowboarding if you don't hold to anything. I said, fine. We arrived at the slope, but when -30 hit me, I forgot everything about balance or snowboarding. my tears were freezing, literally, okay? So I said, I won't give up. You know, I did this effort, I will do it, I'm strong. And I accepted his technique lessons. I even did acrobatics and, you know, falling on the left, on the right, on backwards, because he wanted me to know how to fall. And he said, you are ready, you can go down the hill. And I was on top of this hill. He ran down, not for me to have any help to scream. It was awful. It was, I said, I didn't care about technique. Everything I want is to arrive without my freezing breath, like without losing my breath, to the bottom of the slope, which seemed like Everest. You know, I had this objective of, doesn't matter how, but I have to arrive with some grace at the bottom of the slope. So, you know, it felt like hell, but I remembered Winston Churchill saying that if you are going through hell, keep going. So this is what I did. I knew that there is no way back for me, that I had to go down. Many of us today, like especially in the entrepreneurial world, but I think soon you'll be also here, they resonate with my first minus 30, you know, snowboarding experience. You probably heard this is concept called VUCA. V as volatility, uncertainty, C as complexity or ambiguity. We are really hit by minus 30 weather conditions, and we need to have a very smart attitude to risk, measure success, and, you know, take the right decisions. And in order to adapt, you need a lot of skills for creativity, problem solving, resourcefulness, and a good leadership skill. Which reminds me of Grace Hopper, and I'm happy I introduced her in my Inspirant Code Makers, because she's also a computer scientist, so everybody talked about computer sciences today. But she was also a US Navy admiral. And she had this quote of, you know, you better ask forgiveness than permission. And this is something which, again, you know, comes with me throughout my life. And I prefer to ask sorry than to ask, may I do that? So it is important to balance the two. Fighting and making up. You know, there are some fighting. Fighting, I mean, you know, debates with tons of emotions. Fighting is healthy. There are families who live in perfect harmony, God bless. But in our family, harmony is the instant between two effervescent moments. We have personalities, different opinions. We like to debate them. And I actually encourage this in my kids. I think the most important is not, you know, the fight, but how you make up, how we feel after the experience. What have we experienced? What emotions? How do we cope with them? Are we hurt? Are we stronger? So it's very important that we are growing together and we arrive well at the destination. About feelings. Sometimes we feel trapped. Maybe it's not bad. But I will make a parallel. When I started my exploration as an innovation strategist, I had about 2 years to study theory. So I was traveling the world with a little group of colleagues, and we were meeting various you know, consultancies, research agencies, very, very intelligent people. And you know, I heard concepts like thinking outside the box or brainstorming, very, very interesting principles and tools, methodologies for innovation. But there was like an interesting pattern emerging when we were studying why so many innovations fail. I mean, why it is happening. So we came with this fresh perspective of thinking inside the box. It may sound, you know, a bit paradoxical for you, but what it means, and it can be applied to our personal life, is that sometimes when we set barriers when we know the limitations, it's actually helping us to create better solutions, to identify better what is good for us, faster what is good for us. So being sometimes under pressure, like a coal becoming a diamond, it helps us, okay? Setting limitations. When you have all the opportunities in front of you, sometimes you paralyze, okay? You don't know, but set principles. Connect with your inner values, with your principles, and then you will see that if you want to move to the next step, okay, you need to do it within a box. Don't forget about love, self-love. Love yourself for being vulnerable. Don't lose your sense of humor, okay? We have to live, okay, and enjoy. And being resilient doesn't mean that we are not affected by negative events. It means that we learn to cope with them. We learn about ourselves. We need to adapt, okay, to come back, okay, stand up, go on, and do it with optimism and joy.